What's up guys? Today I want to share with you 5 documentary filmmaking tips that I learned from watching the 4 award-winning documentary films at the International Documentary Film Festival of Amsterdam. What I didn't know about IDFA is that it's one of the largest, if not the largest, documentary film festival in the world. Over a 10-day period it shows over 300 films, and I was really curious to see what cut it as the best of the best, what got the judges and the audience's attention, and what made these films so good. And I learned quite a lot from watching these films, and each film actually taught me something different, and I wanted to share these with you, these insights and these tips, to hopefully inspire you and help you to improve your own documentary filmmaking. So the first tip is actually the whole reason why I went to go and watch these films in the first place, and that is to watch a variety of films. If you're into documentary filmmaking, you'll know that there are so many different kinds of films, and if you're not that into it and you're just getting started, I highly recommend it, watching a variety of documentaries. The more variety you can watch, the more styles and themes and ideas and inspiration and techniques that you can pick up and that you can start to use and implement in your own documentaries. Don't be afraid to copy. I did this with my own documentary, Against the Grain. I had watched a film by Sjoerd Vess called My Meditation. I'll put a link to it below, not below. And I really loved the pacing of this film and the kind of shots that he got. Of course, I'm not going to copy the whole film because the story is different, the topic is different, the character is different, the location is different, it's all different. And his style is different from my style, but I could take one element from this film that I really liked and that I thought would apply to this film that I made. So I did that. And I encourage you to do that as well. And that is why I'm telling you these tips that I gained from watching these films, because I think it's really useful to copy or be inspired by the films that you watch. So I'm gonna look over here every now and again because here are my notes. But the first documentary is Trains. This was the award winner for best editing and best film. And it was really unique because it was set in 20th century Europe and completely made of found footage with no dialogue at all, and it was following the story of 20th century Europe through the lens of trains. And the film started off with the assembly of trains and then people using the trains, like a celebration of ingenuity, human ingenuity. And then it progressed into more wartime kind of use of trains, and we see the military using it, putting guns, loading bombs on it, loading prisoners and refugees, and yeah, kind of took a bit of a dark turn, but it was beautifully made through the use of sound design. And what I learned from this film, and this will be the second tip, you don't need to have so much dialogue or voiceover. You can make a whole film made with 0 dialogue, or you can make an entire scene with 0 dialogue. What I'm taking from this, I'm probably not going to go out and make a 100% silent found footage film anytime soon, but I do take from it that I don't have to have dialogue in my scenes. I can just let the scene unfold naturally without there being a voiceover to tell the story. But just by showing the story, I think that's going to be so much more powerful. And Mark Bones says it himself, show, don't tell. I think that's a great tip to walk away with. The second film, A Frown Gone Mad. This was a very interesting film because it was set in a Botox parlor. So there's this woman who's giving Botox therapy and different kinds of beautification treatments to a whole variety of people, men, women, young, old, And what was interesting was the cinematography was pretty much the most basic you can get. The whole film was just with the camera on a tripod, looking over the shoulder of the therapist at the client. And it was just filming a whole lot of different interactions between multiple clients and this therapist. And it was set in Lebanon during a time of war. I think it was 2019 or 2021, I can't quite remember. And a lot of the time people were asking about the war, and there was this constant communication about the war. So what was really interesting here was seeing two parallel stories going with each other with the most basic cinematography. So what I learned from it was that cinematography is less important than we think, or at least we should give it less importance than we think. We don't need to have the best cameras and the best lighting to tell the story, or the best angle, the best composition. Get the shot, tell the story. That is the most important thing. Capture reactions and interactions and relationships between people. And I think that's going to create a much more powerful story. The third film is an American pastoral. An American pastoral. I don't think I'm saying that right. But anyway, this film was very insightful for me because I know nothing about American politics. And this story followed the school board elections at a small town in Pennsylvania. And what intrigued me the most was that it wasn't trying to tell the big story of American politics. It was just telling the story of these individual candidates who were running for the position of school board. And there were multiple positions open, so there were multiple candidates. And what I learned from this was that you don't need to follow the big story to give an idea of the bigger picture. You can follow the small story, follow the small guys, find a niche, find a story that's close to home, that's easy to film, that is going to allude to the bigger picture. If you want to tell a story about drug addiction in your city, you don't need to make interviews with multiple people struggling with addiction, or try to gather as many stories as possible. If you follow one story, one person, like the film by Marco Del Monte called His Name is Ray, this film follows the story of one person, and we see a lot of his interactions with the people. We see how he is on a daily basis, and it tells the story of drug addiction in that city. So you don't need to follow the big story. Find a small one that alludes to the bigger picture. The fourth film is The Guest. This was my favorite film, not because it won Best Cinematography, but because it followed the story of a few characters over the period of a week. It wasn't over a year or multiple years. It was attainable. And this one guy came with a group of friends, and they unfortunately got split up, and he managed to find his way to a random house, and he knocked on their window, and he was super lucky that he got a very nice couple who was already very active in helping refugees and giving them water and maps and things to help them get through the area. So they took him in, and the story was all about their relationship and their interactions and how it developed and what were the struggles of the situation.
Belarus, tell them, or go inside Poland or die here in border.
What I really took from it was that if you can just follow a person, completely verite, and I love verite, I love watching verite films because it immerses me into the film. I feel like I'm not watching a film, but I am part of the story unfolding, the journey. And yeah, I think that is something, that's a bonus tip that I can maybe give you, is to focus on the story. If you can figure out what your beginning, middle, and end is, figure out what journey your character is going on. You're going to have a so much more powerful and cohesive and comprehensive film rather than collecting a whole lot of B-roll to slap on top of an interview. You're going to have a story which makes it so much more personal and engaging for the audience. So I think if you don't take away anything from this entire video, the one thing I ask you to please go home with is to focus on the story. Don't worry about the cinematography. Don't worry about voiceover. Don't worry about capturing the big picture and trying to make it super detailed and complicated. Focus on story. What is the journey? What are your character's goals? That is going to be the most important thing for your documentary filmmaking. Right. I think that's it for today. I think that's all the tips I've got for you. I hope that these have been insightful. If they have been, please give this video a like and a subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. All right. Cheers.